In a world where humans must choose between magic or the sword, but never both, Oscar became a legendary swordsman. But everything changes when a mysterious attack forces him to confront a hidden truth about himself. As he uncovers the secrets of his past, Oscar must decide which path he truly belongs on. It is called The Magic Theory of the Regressed Sword Saint. Now to the chapter. Monsters once roamed freely across the world, bringing civilization and humanity to the brink of destruction. Their power seemed unstoppable, their might unmatched. But humanity refused to surrender. When all seemed lost, two paths of power emerged from the very essence of the world itself. Two ways for ordinary people to gain extraordinary abilities and fight back against the darkness. The first path was one of magic. Those who chose this way learned to harness the mana flowing invisibly through the air. They became mages, weaving miracles through spellcraft and ancient incantations. With their newfound power, they hunted monsters across the devastated lands. In one such battle, a group of mages attacked a monster with coordinated spells. But as their magic rained down, the creature barely flinched. Their magic seemed insufficient against such a powerful foe. The second path was one of the sword. This path allowed warriors to forge aura within their own bodies, a power that far exceeded normal human limits. Those who walked this road learned devastating techniques and sword skills that could shake the earth. A group of swordsmen struggled against a different monster, their blades clashing against its thick hide. The monster, wounded and enraged, unleashed a massive fireball in retaliation, forcing the warriors to scatter. These were the two choices given to humanity: become a mage or become a swordsman. Once you picked your path, there was no turning back. But then, something changed in the battle. A swordsman moved with impossible speed, dashing past all the other fighters. His movement was so fast that he seemed to blur across the battlefield. He raised his sword high and rushed directly toward the monster. The creature barely had time to register the attack before the blade found its mark. In a single, devastating strike, the monster fell. The swordsman landed gracefully on the ground as dust settled around him. All the other fighters could only stare in amazement at what they had witnessed. This was the power of a true master, someone who had devoted themselves completely to their chosen path. This swordsman's name was Oscar. As the crowd gathered around him, people called out to him respectfully, "Oscar the Sword Saint." They expressed their gratitude and asked why someone of his legendary status would come to defend such a small, remote town. Oscar simply thanked them for their hard work and their courage before turning to leave. The crowd seemed confused. Why would the great sword saint leave so suddenly after saving their village? As Oscar walked through the town streets, he saw the destruction the monster had left behind. Buildings were damaged. Streets were scarred. People had suffered greatly. He thought to himself about his own life, how he had chosen the path of the sword instead of magic, and how he had climbed to the very highest rank a swordsman could achieve. He had dedicated his entire existence to perfecting this one path. But then a voice interrupted his thoughts. "Look, it's so pretty," someone said nearby. Oscar turned to see what was happening. A young girl stood in the street, her eyes wide with wonder. A mage, a person who had chosen the path of magic, was showing her something. The mage smiled and explained, "This is called magic." Oscar found himself mesmerized by what he saw. The mage's magic glowed with an ethereal beauty that seemed to touch something deep within him. As he watched, memories flooded back. He remembered his younger self, a child filled with wonder and excitement at the sight of magic for the first time. He recalled the joy he had felt, the pure excitement that came with seeing such impossible power. That feeling was still with him, even now, buried deep inside. And watching the little girl's face light up with the same wonder he had once felt, it stirred something in his heart that he thought he had left behind long ago. Time passed, and now Oscar found himself high in the snowy mountains. He stood in a deep crater, not a natural formation, but something he had created himself through years and years of relentless training. His sword moved through the air in precise, powerful strikes. Each movement was controlled and deliberate, the result of countless days of practice in this very spot. Two young disciples watched from nearby, observing their master's training routine. "Is this really where master trains every morning?" one boy asked, curious about their teacher's dedication. "He never misses a training session when he's here," the other boy replied. He pointed down at the crater around them and continued. Before Master became a sword saint, this entire area was completely flat. But look at it now. He trained here every single day, and over time, his sword strikes sank deeper and deeper into the earth. This crater? This is what his training created. His dedication literally reshaped the landscape. The first boy looked down in amazement, struggling to comprehend that such a deep crater had been formed entirely from one man's sword practice. The sheer amount of training it must have taken seemed almost impossible. Suddenly, the second boy noticed something. Wait, didn't you come here for a reason? Weren't you supposed to deliver something? The first boy's eyes widened as he remembered his task. Right, Master, he called out, his voice echoing across the mountainous terrain. Oscar stopped mid-strike and turned to look at his disciple. The young man was running toward him, slightly out of breath. Master, a letter arrived from the capital, the boy said, holding out the sealed envelope. It looks important. Oscar took the letter and carefully opened it, reading its contents with a calm expression. Is it bad news, Master? His disciple asked nervously. Oscar let out a small sigh of frustration. They want to give me a medal for slaying the dragon. Another ceremony, another celebration. Do these people at the capital understand how much of a nuisance this is? I have to travel all that way every time they want to honor some achievement. His disciple couldn't help but smile at his master's bluntness. Master, I have to say, you might be one of the only people in this entire kingdom who could complain about the capital like that. Your past accomplishments alone would have earned you an important position in the government. Most people would be honored. Oscar turned away from the letter and looked back at his disciple. I have no interest in political affairs. I don't have time for such things. I only want to train with my sword. He said it with finality, as if the matter was already decided. Master really does love the sword, his disciple commented, a hint of admiration in his voice. But when Oscar saw the look on his disciple's face, his expression softened. He smiled warmly. I wouldn't say I love the sword, exactly. It's more complicated than that. My father was a sword saint just like I am now. When I was young, he told me to take up the sword. It was his wish for me. His disciple fell silent, uncertain how to respond to such a personal revelation. Oscar continued, his voice becoming quieter and more reflective. When I was younger, I didn't have a choice. The decision was made for me. I was told to become a swordsman, and so I did. The young man suddenly spoke up, his voice filled with emotion. Master, I'm actually jealous of you. My own father was also a sword saint, which is why I went to the Sword Academy. But he looked down at the ground, his voice becoming uncertain. I'm starting to doubt whether I truly have any talent with the sword. Sometimes I think, maybe I should have chosen the path of magic instead. Oscar turned to face his disciple fully. This was important. The young man was struggling with a fundamental question about his own future. Listen to me, Oscar said, his voice firm but kind. The aura that swordsmen use to fight and the mana that mages use are fundamentally different. One draws its power from your blood, from your very body. The other comes from your core, from a different part of your essence entirely. These two types of power cannot mix. If you try to use both, if you try to blend them together, you will die. Your body will tear itself apart. He paused, letting this reality sink in. This is why, once you choose your path, you must stay on it for the rest of your life. There is no changing your mind. There is no going back. You must commit completely. The disciple's shoulders slumped as he heard this harsh truth. Oscar's expression softened again, and he placed a hand on his disciple's shoulder. But here's what I know. If you have time to worry about whether you made the right choice, then you have time to swing your sword. When I doubted myself, I swung my sword. I kept training. I kept pushing forward. And look at what I've become because of it. He gestured to the crater around them, a physical monument to his dedication. The disciple's eyes brightened, new determination replacing his doubt. You're right, Master. I'll work harder. I won't give up. Later that night, Oscar lay in his room, thinking about the words he had spoken to his disciple. He knew the truth. He had only said those things to encourage the young man, but those words had stirred something inside him as well. The truth was, Oscar himself wondered about these same questions. He had always possessed natural talent with the sword. There was no denying that fact. He had mastered the blade completely and had become the strongest swordsman in the land. But deep down, in a place he rarely admitted to himself, he couldn't help but wonder. What if he had chosen differently? What if he had become a mage instead? What would his life have become? What kind of power would he have achieved? These thoughts tormented him in his quietest moments, even though he tried to push them away. His contemplation was interrupted by a sudden, violent attack. Fire erupted around his house. The wooden structure burst into flames as shadowy figures emerged from the darkness. They were mages, individuals who had chosen the path of magic. One of them smiled wickedly as he watched the house burn. "Did we get him?" another mage asked. "Don't be careless," the leader warned. "Our target is a sword saint. Stay alert and ready for anything." Suddenly, a figure shot out of the burning building, leaping through the flames with perfect control. It was Oscar. He landed on the ground and immediately assessed the situation. These mages were no ordinary spellcasters. They were high-level practitioners, masters of their craft. His eyes focused on the one who seemed to be leading them, studying him carefully to understand their capabilities. The mages began to channel their power, preparing a coordinated spell attack. Oscar drew his sword in response and dashed forward with incredible speed, moving to strike down the leader before the spell could be completed. But something made him hesitate. One of the mages had grabbed his disciple, the young man who had brought him the letter earlier. The mage held a spell ready, threatening to kill him instantly if Oscar continued his attack. "Drop your sword," the mage demanded. "Drop it or he dies." Oscar's disciple looked terrified, his face filled with fear and despair. But Oscar remained calm, his expression serious as he assessed the situation. "What is it that you want?" Oscar asked, his voice steady despite the tension. The leader of the mage group smiled coldly. "We're here to end you. That's all you need to know." "I don't understand," Oscar replied, his tone confused. "I don't recall ever deliberately harming anyone or drawing this kind of attention to myself. Why are you targeting me specifically?" The leader's smile widened, revealing cruel intentions. "Oh, you'll remember us eventually, but that doesn't matter anymore. We can't let you live because you are someone very special. Someone who possesses talent in both paths. Someone who could master both magic and sword techniques." Oscar's eyes widened slightly. "What are you talking about? That's impossible." The leader laughed. "You don't need to understand. This is the end for you." But in that moment, something extraordinary happened. Oscar's disciple screamed out, "Master, don't worry about me. I'm a swordsman. I've trained my whole life with the sword. I'm prepared for this. I'm ready for my end." The young man's words, his courage in the face of death, struck Oscar with profound clarity. His eyes became clear, his mind focused. He understood what his disciple was saying. He understood the message in those brave words. "I understand," Oscar said, his voice filled with certainty. "You're right. Now I see it clearly." He turned to face the mages, his sword raised. "Your plan will fail. Don't underestimate my disciple." The mages attacked all at once, unleashing their combined magical power at Oscar. He stood ready, bracing himself against the onslaught. The attack hit with tremendous force, creating a massive explosion of dust and debris that obscured everything from view. The leader of the mages watched carefully through the dust cloud, waiting to see the result. A small smile appeared on his face. A thin line of blood ran down his cheek, a tiny cut that shouldn't have been possible. But more importantly, he could see what had happened. Oscar had thrown his sword, thrown away his weapon, to protect his disciple from the attack. "You threw away your life for your disciple?" The mage leader laughed mockingly. "What an idiot! But our mission is complete." As the dust settled, Oscar stood there defenseless. He looked toward his disciple to make sure he was safe. "Are you all right?" His disciple's eyes filled with tears. "Master, why did you do that? Why did you throw away your sword for me?" Oscar's voice was calm and accepting. "Because you're a swordsman too. You've trained just as hard as I have. And any true swordsman is willing to give their life to protect those they care about. That's what it means to be a swordsman." The young man couldn't hold back his tears. "Master, I'm so sorry. This happened because of me. This is my fault." But Oscar smiled gently, even as his life faded away. "Don't say that. It's not your fault. It's not your fault." As his vision began to darken, Oscar thought about what the mage leader had said, that he possessed talent in both paths. And in his final moments, he was honest with himself at last. He had always wanted to use magic. He had kept this desire hidden for so long, burying it beneath the endless training with his sword. He thought about all the people who had wanted him to become a swordsman, all the people who had been proud when he achieved that goal. But deeper than that pride, deeper than those expectations, was the memory of his childhood. That moment when he had first seen magic, when his heart had filled with wonder and excitement. As these thoughts consumed him, something strange happened. His small, young hand suddenly became large again. His body felt different, smaller and younger somehow. He felt the warmth of the sun on his face. When he opened his eyes, he was lying beneath a tree. The world around him looked unfamiliar. He was confused and disoriented. But one thought dominated his mind. How was this possible? He should be dead. How was he still alive?
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and like. It really helps me out.